Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of my podcast today. So, I'm your host. Literally, I'm your fucking host. And I have notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see my fucking notes on my phone because I actually put notes down for this episode. Hooray! Actually, literal. Fuck. Anyways, so today we're going to be discussing a very important topic, in my opinion. I feel like this has a lot to do with a lot of things. Obviously this has a lot of things, this correlates back to the person and the family and all that, because you probably have seen the title of this episode, and I just want to talk about growing up rich versus growing up poor. Because I'm not gonna lie, this happens you're gonna experience some differences, more than you would actually imagine. You will, go to school, or you go to work, or you get a job, or you go shopping, or you live in an area, and all that. There are rich and poor people, and there are rich people who gain their wealth during their 20s, 30s, 10s, 50s, you never know, right? And there are people who were just born into money. And this is what I want to talk about, the differences of the upbringing and what the stereotype is, and all about that spoiled character of a person. And yeah, we're also gonna have some story times. Actually, not really story times, but it's more of personal experience, because I feel like I've dealt with a lot of people like this. I come from a boarding school. I went to fucking boarding school. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get started. So here I have in my notes, I just want to say all these is based off my personal experience, and it's just my opinion. So don't come at me for, there are people that are like this, there are people that are not like this, not everything is so generalized in all this sense. Yes, of course, you're going to run into different people. You're not going to run into the same people that I run into. You're not going to, be friends with the people that I be friends with, that's why it's different. And I just wanted to clarify that. So in segment 1 we have here is the foundation of childhood. This is very important. So on an early stage of growing up, if your parents are rich, I would assume automatically at least one of your parents are working. At least one of your parents are busy, and that's just what I'm assuming, because I don't know, I feel like growing up just being rich and growing up being poor, there's a huge difference in between. So here let's just throw all that shit away first. I'm just gonna talk about my situation in here, my childhood, my upbringing, because this is important for me to acknowledge this. So growing up, I always, because my family's really humble, and frugal in a good way, okay? So they're just really they really like to save money, and they have this concept of saving money that they pass down to me, and they're not really keen on spending money, which I didn't really get that from them. Obviously I'm very materialistic, and I'm just not relatively, I'm not very materialistic compared to my peers, but compared to my parents, I'm extremely materialistic. I just love shopping. So I'm not gonna lie, this is very bad. I shouldn't be fucking laughing about this. So the thing is, growing up, I always thought that my family's poor. I always dreamed of being rich for some reason, like, I always thought that my family's poor. And because like, growing up, like, my dad will always tell me, like, you know, like, don't buy things like this, we can't afford this, you know, like, we can't afford this, we can't afford that. And like, in turn, I'll look at my aunt's family, and my aunt has a son, so me and my cousin Oscar. So my cousin and I were both like only child, and like, their family has a car. And because in Hong Kong nobody really drives, right? So it's like, to me, a car is like a mobile home, you know, like a fucking home, like a fucking space for yourself that you can drive around, like you can move, like, you know, that to me sounds like extreme privilege. And I'm like, I want, like, why don't my family has a car? Like, why doesn't my dad drive? Like, why doesn't my mom drive, you know? And I'm like, are we poor? Okay, hold on, my camera is actually dying. Hold on, give me a minute. Okay, so I was wondering, like, were my family poor? Like, why don't we have a car? Like, whilst you know, my cousin's family, like Oscar's family, has a fucking car. My childhood best friend Gordon has a fucking car. I mean Gordon's dad drives a car. And I'm like, are we poor now? But that's like me, like, that mentality, like, after that thought, I asked my dad, I was like, are we poor? Like, why the fuck do we always have to take, like, public transport? I mean, I'm not saying, like, the public transport is, like, bad at all. Like, the public transport in Hong Kong is, like, one of the best in the world. Like, it's better than, in my opinion, it's better than the ones in London, because shit in here is fucking dirty as fuck. Like, I'm not even fucking lying. It's not comparable. Hong Kong's transport system and Hong Kong's transportation vehicles, they're very fucking clean, and you know, they run 24 hours, and like, everything is just so good. And I didn't realize that until I, you know, moved here, and I just realized there's, like, the bus in here sucks. The fucking tube always have, like, homeless people in there, and it's always dirty, and there's, like, rats and all that, and it's just, I'm not fucking lying. Just, okay, hear me out. This is, like, so off topic, but after the car thing, I asked my dad, I was like, yo, are we poor? Obviously I didn't say, yo, are we poor? I was like, Dad, why don't we have a car? Like, you know, why can't we have a fucking car? And my dad is like, it's not that we can't afford a car, but I'm gonna break it down for you. So Mom and I, like, my dad, I'm quoting my dad, like, Mom and I literally just works at a place where, you know, public transport can reach, while, you know, your cousin Oscar's dad works in construction sites, so he needs a car. And, you know, your best friend's Gordon's dad, who also works at very like off the public transport systems places, so they need a car. That makes sense. And also, like, you know, having a car in Hong Kong is very expensive, especially parking, and it's not only when you park at home. Parking at home is okay. Like we live in, like, an estate. Like, I mean, it's more of like, we call it an estate because it's how we call it, but it's like apartment complex, and, you know, it comes with, like, a big ass parking garage, and how do you say it? And there's like 6 buildings or whatever. Okay, whatever. So let me get this over with. So breaking it down is really unnecessary. Turns out that it's really unnecessary for my mom and dad to have a car, so they don't have a car, which makes sense. And from that moment on, I'm always like, oh my god, I'm poor. But I have this, like, mentality until maybe like a year or 2 ago. Like, no, actually not, that's not true. Maybe like you know, maybe like when I started studying in England, Because when I first started, I didn't realize how expensive it is. Like, I thought it's like it's cheap. I thought it was fucking cheap to go to a fucking boarding school. I'm not gonna fucking lie. Like, when I was younger, I thought it was cheap to go to a fucking boarding school because, you know, my parents can afford to get me there. And, you know, every time, like, I fly back 6 times a year. Like, I fly home 6 times a fucking year. And every time it's like, you know, $1,200 for like the plane tickets to go back. And it's expense. Like, it's expenses. Like, when you think about it, it's $72,000. Wait, hold on. $7,200 a year of expense. Extra just for me to fly home to see my parents. Like, you know, is that really fucking necessary? Not really, but when I'm thinking about it, it's not cheap. Like, you know, and also the tuition is fucking $44,000. I mean, 44,000 fucking pounds a year. It's not cheap. And slowly by that time, I realized, okay, so my mom and dad, they both work. They're very, like, you know, probably like middle class, I guess. Like, I don't know how much they earn, to be honest. Like, I do not know how much they earn, but I don't think, okay, I'm not gonna expose my family up here, but I feel like I think we're doing okay. Like, I think we're doing okay. Yeah. But I would consider myself growing up, let's say, middle class. So I always have this, like, this shaped me into the person that I am. Because, like, in my mind, I feel like middle class are the people who actually worked. And then they just become richer and richer, but it doesn't mean that they grow up rich. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. However, I've known a lot of people who grow up privileged, like very privileged, like rich. These people, you know, I have had like high school friends that are like this, and they have never went into a fucking grocery store. Like, listen, I've never been to a farmer's market in Hong Kong. They call it the wet market, but basically it's a fucking farmer's market. Like, everything in there is fucking fresh, and I don't know if it's cheap or not, but apparently it's supposed to be fresh. But I've never been to a farmer's market. And these friends of mine, they've never been to a fucking grocery store. They have maids to get groceries for them. Well, okay, talking about maids, I actually had a maid. Her name is Leah. She's from the Philippines. But the thing is, we fired her. Oh, we didn't fire her. The contract just ended and we didn't renew it. So basically, she left and we fired her. Actually, that's not true. But we didn't fire her. But she left. I miss her so much. But she worked for us for 10 years. Like, she literally, how do I say it? Like, she is like a second mother to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, she took care of me for 10 fucking years. Because my mom had to work and my dad had to work. And they're both too busy to take care of me. So, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I miss her so much. I'm gonna get emotional. Oh God, Lord. I feel like growing up with maids are not, I wouldn't say is privilege. Would I say it's privilege? Like, I don't know. Cause look, I feel like in this case, like, people from Hong Kong are a little bit like special when it comes to like common things like this. Because when I think about it, in America, when you have a maid, it means that you're rich. Cause I feel like maid's salary in America is just expensive. And like in most Western country, if you have a maid, is expensive to have a maid. But in here, like, not here, I'm in London, for God's sake. In Hong Kong, almost everybody has a maid. Like, I don't know who doesn't have a maid. Oh yeah. There are like, I don't know how to say this, but like, almost everybody that I know has a maid. So I feel like it's very common. Or it could be just my circle, just my bubble of friends. I don't know how to say this, but certainly I feel like just the upbringing of like how rich you are is like quite irrelevant at this point. But I'm gonna propose this idea that I want to tell you guys. Like, I feel like how the level of spoiledness, is that a word? The level of how spoiled you are has nothing to do with your wealth level. Like, if you are extremely rich, you know, if you're extremely rich, but your parents, like, if your family's like extremely rich, like, you don't, like, if you want, you don't need to do anything to get what you want. You know what I'm saying? But your parents educate you, and your parents, excuse me, and your I burp so much, and your parents like educate you and taught you in a way where you know the basic survival skills, you know how to be in the kitchen, you know how to cook, you know how to feed yourself so you won't starve to death, and you know how to clean your dishes, and you learn things like taking accountability for your own action and you know, being responsible and you know, just taking up your own responsibility and learning what your responsibility are from a very young age. And you're not spoiled if that's the case. But if you are from a less privileged family, but the way that you were brought up is that you are brought up like a prince, you are brought up like a princess, you know, like your family do everything for you. All that you have to say, all that you have to do when you want something is ask for them, and everything would just be handed to you perfectly. That's what I call spoiled. Like, and I do not agree with that kind of upbringing. So I don't, you know, I'm not going to associate with myself with people like this, because I feel like this is just a very negative impact in your life. So they're just going to ask for things. But this is what I'm talking about. When your upbringing is like this, there's a I think an expression in Cantonese in Hong Kong is called the princess disease, or the prince disease. It basically means that you're so spoiled, like you're like this. you act like this, you know. It's a joke, by the way. So the thing is, the difference, like the stereotype between when people are like assuming that you grow up rich and assuming that you grow up poor, it has a lot to do with like your action of how spoiled you are. I'm not fucking joking. Like, I'm not fucking joking. Literally, like, look, like, how do I say this? Like, if somebody on the street, like, I don't know, let's say your classmate or whatever, not on the street, like your fucking classmate or your coworker, they judge you based on, like they judge your upbringing based on how you act. So, if you act all, like, spoiled and, like, inconsiderate and, like, just very that type of, I quote, I get what I want type characteristic, or, you know, like that, it is so, like, people are gonna assume that, fuck, I keep burping, that you're from a privileged family, because you're giving off the impression of you have, like, you've never done hard things, you know, you don't know how to do anything. But when you are a hardworking, dedicated, considerate, just knows a lot of things, and you know, you are willing to figure things out on your own, and like, you're just that type of person. A lot of people are assume, like, I feel, this is just my opinion, okay? I feel like a lot of people are just gonna assume that you grow up in a less privileged family where you're like, typically, this is like a stereotype, right? Like, typically your mom and dad are teaching you how to, like, you know, take care of yourself, work harder, and to get what you want, and you know, to just work for the things that you want, right? And the stereotype is typically correct, because again, from my personal experience, I've, you know, encountered a lot of people. I don't judge, but like, based on my experience with people who tend to, you know, figure things, okay, I'm basing this off of like the people that I've met from college, not from high school, because in boarding school we actually grew up together, so like everybody's like a brother and sister to me, like whatever the fuck, right? So whatever. Listen, in college, like, all the people who are like spoiled as fuck, they don't know anything. They paid other people, like, they literally paid other people to do their, you know, assignments for them. They ask everything, like, they don't know anything. Those are usually the people who, like, are very spoiled. Like, they have, like, I would say rich parents, you know, like above average parents. Actually, hold on. I feel like everybody in my college is above average because tuition fee is not cheap. But what I'm saying is, like, their actions and their day-to-day just says a lot about them, you know? And this is what I'm saying. It is usually correct that when you assume, and what I'm saying, like, when you grow up rich versus when you grow up poor, it's very difficult to, like, compare this side to side, because there are so many elements that are, no, I wouldn't say it's elements, like, there are, like, there are literally so many, like, variables in people's life about, like, if they grew up rich or if they grew up poor, you know, it's, like, very different. So, like, it's hard to just, like, determine it in a way where, like, you can just determine it, because you can't just say shit like this. So, listen, if I get to choose, actually, no, that is very evil. If I will compare them together as, like, a parenting or, like, the upbringing, I will say growing up comfortably. Actually, that's the wrong pronunciation. I need to, like, people on fucking TikTok are making fun of how I speak English, so I'm gonna, you know, pronounce everything correctly. So I feel like if you grow up comfortably, it is harder for you to have a fire under your ass for you to work for the things that you want, because you're so used to asking for things and getting them straight away, because you're so privileged that you can just get everything with on the tip of your finger. And I feel like a lot of the times when parents, they're so busy that they, you know, unintentionally neglected their child or children, they just solve things with materials or money, or, like, you know, things that are, I feel like it's bad for parenting, bad for, like, growing up as, like, a child. Because, okay, look, if I'm a dad and I'm very busy, like, I'm working, and, you know, let's say my daughter or my son, they, like, it's their birthday, but I'm so busy at a point that I cannot attend, like, I cannot arrange anything for their birthday. And their mother, like, oh fuck, I can't talk. Their mother, why am I sounding like I have, like, 4 baby mamas? Like, I'm not kidding. So and their mother is very busy as well, so she probably couldn't take care of the children, like not take care, but like, I mean, at this point, if I'm very busy and I'm working a lot and I probably have a nanny, that's how I imagine my life to be. Like, this is hypothetically when, if I'm rich. So my children, and I will miss their birthday. So what will I do in compensation of, not being present to their birthday? I will buy them a gift which is more expensive than what I, originally intended it to be, in order to compensate the fact that I can't be there with my child. You know what I'm saying? So that is how parents think. Because if I'm just putting myself in their shoe, and obviously when it comes to the real thing, like when I'm actually having a fucking baby, like it's more to just this to think about. But I'm just saying, in this scenario, that is what I'm gonna do. And with that case, the upbringing of the children and what they're gonna see is, okay, so dad is not here, so dad is gonna get me a very nice gift. But if dad is here, dad is not gonna give me as nice of a gift that he is going to get me. And they see money and they see material as a thing of value. Like, I'm not saying it is not, but I'm saying when money, actually it's not even about money, like when material, like the value of material becomes relevant to a person's presence, I feel like that causes a problem. Like, that means something to a child. Like, it could mean that if, like, money could mean that if a person's presence is important, and they wouldn't, like, I feel like the impact on the children's mind is quite large in this case, because I feel like they're not gonna see people's presence as important as, like, they feel like money can solve that. Because they correlate the value of money and the value of materials to the person's presence, the importance of the person's presence. So this is what I'm saying. However, growing up poor, on the other hand, I feel like this is very important to talk about, because you don't always get what you want. AKA, I feel like I had this when I was growing up, but I'm not sure if I'm poor. That's the only thing. But I feel like my parents educate me in a way where this is happening. So, because I'm thinking like this, like how I'm talking about this right now. So growing up poor is, I feel like a child who grew up poor will appreciate things more than a child grew up comfortably, because you never get what you want. There's a lot of desire, but you can never fulfill those desire when you're young. Let's say I'm a big fan of Transformers, and I've always wanted the Bumblebee, or like a Megatron. Like, I fucking love that fucking Megatron. I fucking love him. Anyways, like, the thing is it's just not realistic when you're poor. Like, you cannot get what you want. You cannot get the toys that you want. You cannot get, you cannot go to places that you want. You cannot afford to have nice dinners at a restaurant. Well, that I will not implement myself in this situation, so I don't want to expose my family. But it really makes you appreciate things more when there's no comparison in between. Because one thing that is really bad is when you put everything in the perspective of, in the scope of comparison. Like, yo, Gordon has this, I don't have this. Like, Gordon has this toy, I don't have this toy, I want that toy. And my dad got me a nice toy, but it's not as good as Gordon's. And I'll complain to my dad, like, the fuck, that. So I mean, comparison is a very bad element in a growing up culture. But I feel like I feel like poor kids do appreciate things more because they don't always get what they want. And I really do think that an upbringing of a child is very important. And I do feel like, me as a person who doesn't have children, in future when I have children, I would love to like take this up a notch, because I feel like it's very important for a child to be brought up to be a nice child and not a dick. Because a lot of I've known a lot of people who are fucking assholes. They're total fucking crappy assholes because they're insecure. Their parents neglect them. They have no love. They're pathetic. And that's why they're using money to be assholes. So, this is my view of life. I just want to say thank you for watching, or if you're listening, thank you for listening, because I feel like this is a very important topic for me to learn and for me to discuss, because I feel like I don't talk about this enough. I don't think about this as much as I need, and some of my friends are fucking pathetic motherfuckers. They think they're better than everybody else, so obviously I have to distance myself to people like this, but I'm sure, like, I feel like this should have more awareness. But you know what, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you want to keep up with me personally, you can follow me on Instagram. Just search my name, Jasonlai, and you'll see my Instagram account. I do not have threads. There's a thing called threads on Instagram right now. I don't use it. I refuse to do it. I refuse to fucking use it, bro. I swear to God. So, oh fuck, I keep burping. So, if you want to keep up with me, also on TikTok, it's the same username as my Instagram. If you found my Instagram, you probably can find my TikTok. Well, thank you for watching. Also subscribe to my vlog channel, because I post every week, and I post every week here too. Thank you for watching. I love you guys so much. Why do I keep saying I don't know, maybe I'm nervous because I still want to talk about something more. I don't know. Okay, you guys, I love you guys so much. Okay, bye. Forehead kisses, but not to the camera anymore. Okay, bye.